In northern Ghana, Sergei is out hunting when a massive lion suddenly appears right in front of him. Sensing the danger, he quickly shields his younger brother behind him. He knows that even if he shoots, there's no way to kill the beast with a single bullet. In a critical moment, Sergei lowers his weapon, trying to show the lion that he means no harm. Surprisingly, the lion's fierce expression slowly begins to soften. But suddenly, a gunshot shatters the peace. The one who fired was Sergei's father, Nikolai. However, he miscalculated. The lion roars and charges at Sergei, sinking its teeth into his body. Nikolai fires several times in a desperate attempt to stop it, but it's useless. The lion drags Sergei away, and his father knows there's no way he can survive. In that moment, the lion's blood accidentally seeps into the boy's open wound. As if a mysterious gate had opened, his genes begin to react in a strange way. The lion seems to sense it too. It releases the boy and walks away. Miraculously, Sergei survives. However, Nikolai feels no joy at his son's return. As a legendary mafia figure, he cannot tolerate what he sees as Sergei's moment of weakness. He wants his son to possess the bloodthirsty instincts of a wolf, and lectures him about the brutal laws of the wild, urging him to one day take over the family business. Sergei doesn't dare defy his father, but when he sees the lion's stuffed body, he can no longer contain his fury. He locks himself in his room, swearing that he will never become a cold-blooded monster like his father. Not long before, his mother had taken her own life after years of domestic abuse. Fueled by rage and disappointment toward his family, Sergei decides to leave forever. Before he goes, he takes a mysterious letter that seems to hold deep meaning for him. As he carefully climbs onto the roof to escape, the tiles break beneath him. He expects to fall hard to the ground, but instead he lands lightly. He then begins a long journey to his mother's hometown, a vast plain in the far eastern reaches of Russia. As he marvels at the breathtaking beauty of nature, a terrifying noise suddenly echoes behind him. Sergei turns and sees a massive herd of buffalo charging straight toward him. With no place to hide in the open field, he can only cover his ears and brace for the worst. Strangely, the buffalo do not trample him. Instead, they split and run past on both sides. Then he realizes that the lead buffalo is shielding him with its own body. Only after the herd passes does the Buffalo King move away. It's then that Sergei discovers not only can he communicate with animals, but his physical abilities have surpassed human limits. With a single throw, he can hurl a spear over 100 meters. His speed rivals that of a cheetah, allowing him to catch a deer mid-sprint in seconds. Even his hearing has evolved. He can distinguish the number of water droplets in a stream. Suddenly, a gunshot echoes through the valley. He swiftly climbs a tree and spots two hunters nearly a kilometer away. Sergei runs to stop them, but he's too late. Seeing dozens of dead buffalo on the ground, a wave of rage overtakes him. Before he can act, the hunters approach him, threatening him to leave immediately. Those words awaken the beast within. Sergei grabs a knife from the ground and attacks like a wild animal, giving the hunters no chance to fight back. Looking at another group of hunters nearby, and then at the fallen buffalo, Sergei swears he will seek justice. 16 years later, Sergei has become a legendary assassin known as Kraven. To get close to his next target, he disguises himself as a prisoner and enters a high-security jail. But once inside the cell, he realizes that his cellmate is also a dangerous man. To avoid unnecessary conflict, Kraven proposes a wager. He claims he'll be out in 3 days, and if not, his cellmate can do whatever he wants with him. During the next day's yard time, two thugs approach him, saying everything there belongs to their boss, Semyon, and that they'll teach the newcomer a lesson. With barely any effort, Kraven lifts them off the ground. Fortunately, the guards arrive just in time to stop a bloodbath. Later, Kraven is taken to meet the prison boss, but he's not the least bit worried. He knows exactly who the man is. That's the very reason he came. As soon as they lower their guard, Kraven strikes. Before the two bodyguards can react, they're already on the ground. Semyon senses the danger, but by then it's too late. The commotion draws one of the prison guards, but Kraven grabs him and throws him off the upper floor. He climbs the wall like a lizard and uses brute strength to force open an escape route. triggering a deafening alarm throughout the prison. He's too fast, no weapon can stop him. In just 1 minute, he escapes from the facility. However, a massive storm engulfs him completely. Lost in the blizzard, Kraven quickly loses his sense of direction. At that moment, he suddenly feels a murderous presence. A tundra wolf appears before him. But when Kraven uses his telepathy, the wolf becomes docile. Guided by the animal, he manages to reunite with his extraction team. Afterward, he removes the tattoos from his body. When the military arrives, all they find is an unrecognizable corpse, torn apart by wolves. After completing his mission, Kraven returns to the plains, only to find a group of hunters slaughtering buffalo. He patiently waits along the convoy's route, and when the time comes, Kraven wipes out an entire truckload of them in seconds. The leader in the pickup panics. Realizing the situation is out of control, he speeds away, but Kraven memorizes the license plate. The leader later returns to report to his boss, but before he can say a word, a crossbow bolt pierces straight through his head. Kraven crosses his name off the list and closes the door behind him. Following a familiar scent, he appears before a woman and pulls out the letter he's kept for years. At that moment, Calypso realizes Kraven is the same little boy from long ago. Back when Kraven was taken by the lion, Calypso and her family had been traveling nearby. The letter she held had been given to her by her grandmother, who predicted it would protect her from danger. Her grandmother had also passed down a mysterious elixir that had been in their family for generations. Later, Calypso encountered the lion holding the boy in its jaws. The beast didn't harm the child, and when it looked at Calypso, there was a hint of pleading in its eyes. Calypso gave Kraven the mysterious elixir, and before leaving, handed him the letter, hoping it would bring him good fortune. Although the doctors did everything they could, Kraven's injuries were too severe, and he was declared dead. But just as they were about to turn off the machines, he miraculously came back to life. To uncover the truth behind what happened, Kraven spent 16 years searching until he finally sensed Calypso's presence again. By then, she had become a renowned lawyer in London, but her mentor had recently been killed while handling a major case. Kraven tells her he's already avenged him, revealing that the killer was Semyon, the man from the prison. Unsure whether to believe him, Calypso returns home and confirms that Semyon did indeed die behind bars. She meets Kraven again, and although she agrees the man deserved it, she can't accept Kraven's methods, especially knowing he did it solely to repay a favor. But neither of them knows that news of Semyon's death has already reached Reno. Once a henchman under Kraven's father, Reno has now grown ambitious. To expand his influence, he arranges a meeting with Homer, Semyon's former right-hand man, hoping to recruit him. To demonstrate his power, he disconnects a hose from his backpack and his arm begins to transform. Homer's men panic and open fire, knocking Reno to the ground, but he doesn't die. He dusts himself off, stands up, unbuttons his shirt, pulls the bullets out of his hardened skin, and, upon reconnecting the hose, his flesh returns to normal. Faced with such a monster, Homer decides to follow him. Homer later arranges a meeting with Nikolai, who expresses regret over their boss's death and promises to provide shelter. In truth, Nikolai wants to bring them under his control, but he senses something is wrong. Suddenly, assassins sent by Reno launch an ambush. Nikolai had anticipated such an attack, but his youngest son, Dmitri, becomes so terrified that he hides, deeply disappointing his father. Nikolai had hoped Dmitri would act like a man and show courage, not cower before danger. News of the failed assassination quickly reaches Reno. Though furious, he isn't surprised. After all, Nikolai is no ordinary man. At the same time, his men bring him a flash drive containing footage of Kraven's prison escape. Learning that the legendary hunter is Nikolai's son shocks Reno. If the two ever reconciled, it would be a bloodbath. Reno then dispatches an assassin with the power to hypnotize anyone who looks into his eyes. Meanwhile, Kraven, wanting to surprise his brother on his birthday, climbs a building barehanded, evading his father's surveillance systems, and finally reunites with Dmitri. It turns out that on the night Kraven ran away from home, Dmitri begged to go with him, but Kraven refused. Over the years, Dmitri suffered under their father's constant scolding, and Kraven can't help but feel guilty for leaving him behind. Deep down, the boy still longs for Nikolai's approval, but Kraven insists that his brothers stay far away from their father. Just as he's about to explain more, their father suddenly appears. Not wanting to ruin his brother's birthday, Kraven forces a smile. After the party, he spends the night alone in a park. The next morning, as he prepares to say goodbye, he finds the room turned upside down and his brother gone. All that remains is a bloodstain on the bedsheet. He rushes to the balcony and spots his brother being shoved into a car. Without hesitation, Kraven jumps. The height means nothing to him, but he's still a second too late. The kidnappers have already vanished down the road. Refusing to give up, Kraven unleashes his beastly speed and charges after them. As the distance closes, his muscles surge with power. He crashes into the car like a raging bull, then leaps onto it with tremendous force. He tries to break the window to reach his brother, but the car is moving too fast, and Kraven is thrown off as he dodges. The kidnappers take Dmitri to a remote dock, but Kraven isn't far behind. Just before the helicopter takes off, he secures a net rope to its frame, plants his feet and holds it back with brute strength. When the assassin pulls a gun, Kraven ties off the rope, dodges the bullets, grabs a steel pipe and leaps into the air. The gunman doesn't even have time to react before being struck down. The helicopter finally breaks free, and in one last effort, Kraven clings to it, dragged for hundreds of meters across the sea until he's knocked off by a buoy, forced to watch helplessly as his brother is taken away. Kraven turns to Calypso, hoping her connections can locate the kidnappers' hideout. Though she agrees it will take time, Kraven then seeks out his father, only to find that Nikolai already knows. The kidnappers sent a severed finger as proof of life, demanding a $20 million ransom. Though money means little to Nikolai, as New York's most feared mafia boss, yielding would destroy his reputation. And even if the ransom were paid, he doubts they would release the hostage. After some thought, Nikolai decides to ignore the demand. Seeing his father choose to abandon Dmitri, Kraven realizes he must rescue his brother on his own. Fortunately, Calypso's side makes a breakthrough. A friend of hers locates the base. But just as she heads out, that same friend encounters a strange assassin. It turns out the friend had already been bought off, but he never expected that betrayal would be punished. The kidnapper's base is hidden on a steep cliff, but that poses no challenge for Kraven. He clings to the rock like a lizard and swiftly infiltrates the fortress. A guard barely enters his field of vision before a flying blade pierces his throat. Kraven moves with precision, but one slip triggers the alarm. Even so, the enemies underestimate him. The gunfire stops within seconds. Homer, leading the group, tries to fight back but is sent flying by Kraven's charge. Just as Kraven is about to interrogate him about Dmitri's whereabouts, he senses danger. A rocket is coming straight toward them. There's no time to dodge. Kraven and Homer are blasted off the cliff together. The explosion triggers a landslide. To preserve his only lead, Kraven shields Homer's body from the falling debris. As the cliff collapses, Kraven fails to escape in time and is completely buried. Later, the assassin searches through Kraven's body, preparing to take a picture to send to his boss. But he never expects Kraven to appear suddenly behind him. Before the two assassins can react, Kraven has already taken them down. Meanwhile, Dmitri is brought before Reno, who surprisingly chooses not to harm him. Instead, he shows a strange form of compassion. He believes Dmitri, neglected by his father, shares a past similar to his own. To earn his trust, Reno reveals that he underwent extreme biological experiments that turned him into what he is now. Though he gained immense power, he lives in constant, excruciating pain. Despite hating his monstrous form, he understands that only the strong are respected. He hopes Dmitri will agree to undergo the same transformation and use that power to take over Nikolai's criminal empire. But at that moment, Reno's men report an intruder, and everyone draws their weapons. Reno never expected Kraven to arrive so soon. However, when the elevator doors open, it isn't Kraven, it's the foreigner. As he removes his glasses, everyone is pulled into an illusion. He glides through the corridor like a ghost and appears before Dmitri. The foreigner warns Reno not to kill Dmitri until Kraven is captured, as he has discovered that Kraven has no weakness, except for his brother. Then he pulls a plant from his pocket. a rare species from Siberia, the same one Kraven uses to make his poisoned arrows. By finding where it grows, they can track Kraven. Meanwhile, fearing for Calypso's safety, Kraven takes her to his hideout in Siberia. The place is filled with research equipment and rare herbs. Turns out Kraven had been studying plants, hoping to recreate the ancient remedy that once saved his life. But Calypso doesn't know the recipe. It was lost with her grandmother. At the same time, the stranger and Rhino arrive with a new poison. Once injected, it awakens a person's deepest fears, causes organ failure, and ultimately kills them within a nightmare. But soon they find something dangerous lurking in the forest. A cheetah emerges from the trees only to vanish just as quickly. Amid the chaos, Dimitri escapes into the woods. Rhino sends a team to look for him. Unaware, they're walking straight into Kraven's trap. He wants a hunt. In the jungle, Kraven moves swiftly. Before the assassins can fire, they're already dead on the ground. The remaining men panic, but it's too late to run. Rhino realizes his men are doomed and orders a helicopter strike to bomb the area. But Kraven is far too fast, dodging the explosions with ease. However, on his way back, he's struck by a poisoned arrow. His vision blurs and his body begins to sway. Suddenly, spiders surround him, dragging Kraven into a nightmare. The stranger's voice echoes in his mind, but he can't tell illusion from reality. He tries to fight back, but his limbs move sluggishly. When he finally strikes, he hits nothing but wooden posts. Just as the stranger moves in for the final blow, an arrow pierces his forehead. Calypso arrived just in time, seeing Kraven on the brink of death. She uses the mysterious elixir once again, bringing him back to his senses. Meanwhile, Rhino receives word from his men and assumes Kraven is dead. He prepares to return to base with Dimitri, but then he sees a massive stampede of buffalo charging his way. Rhino knows no one could survive that. He disconnects the hose on his back and his body begins to harden within seconds. The cars crumble before the herd and Kraven quickly catches up. Rhino climbs on top of a vehicle and Kraven attacks first, launching him several meters with a flying kick. As the car spins out of control, Rhino doesn't even try to dodge, and the force throws Kraven away. He lifts the car again, but Kraven shortens the distance using his agility, dodging attacks until he's face to face with his enemy. Yet no matter how hard he strikes, it doesn't hurt Rhino. Instead, Kraven is hurled dozens of meters away. Dazed from the impact, he barely gets up before Rhino charges again, giving him no chance to retaliate. With a brutal lunge, Rhino throws Kraven and the truck into the air. Kraven is pinned beneath it as Rhino grins triumphantly, but Kraven rises once more only to be caught again. Just before losing consciousness, he spots Rhino's weakness. Summoning all his strength, he drives a metal rod into the vulnerable point, making Rhino roar in pain and drop him. It only enrages him further. Kraven quickly grabs a steel cable and, using his reflexes, wraps it tightly around Rhino. He hurls the other end skyward, tying it to a charging buffalo. After being trampled by the herd, Rhino is barely clinging to life, but the fight is far from over. Kraven tracks down his father, only to discover that he was the one who sent the escape footage to Rhino. Nikolai doesn't deny it, admitting he knew all along that the mysterious hunter was his own son. He had secretly contacted Rhino, using Kraven's bond with his brother as bait, hoping to eliminate this threat through another's hands. Though Kraven is heartbroken, he can't bring himself to kill his father. But as he walks away, the roar of a bear echoes through the woods. Nikolai grabs his rifle in panic, only to find it empty. The moment Kraven disappears into the trees, the bear strikes. A year later, Kraven attends his brother's birthday party, only to discover the boy has fully taken over their father's business. He doesn't want his brother to follow in Nikolai's footsteps. After the celebration, he tries to talk to him, but what he sees shocks him to the core. Dimitri had secretly joined the doctor's experiment long ago and orchestrated everything from the shadows. Even Kraven himself had been nothing but a pawn in Dimitri's grand scheme. And now he is about to unleash a catastrophe unlike anything the world has ever seen. Thus ends Kraven the Hunter. That's the end. If you've made it this far, comment with the word lion, hit the like button and subscribe. Bye-bye.